Before we dive into this episode, we wanted to take the opportunity to say a heartfelt thank you for being here. Whether you've been with us from the very beginning when we started this podcast in 2019 or you're new, welcome.
We hope you enjoy what you hear, and if you do, please download it, share it with friends, and leave a review. It really helps us get better guests and share the midlife love. In this episode, we're joined by Casey Davidson, a life and sobriety coach from Seattle and host of the Hello Someday podcast. Casey helps high-achieving women who feel stuck in the cycle of trying to moderate their drinking take a step back through a 100-day alcohol-free challenge.
We talk about the myths around moderation, why midlife can be a turning point for many women's relationship with alcohol, the social pressures around drinking, and why you don't have to hit rock bottom to decide you want something different. If you've ever been curious about what life without alcohol might look like, or wondered why it can feel so hard to change your habits, then take a listen.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors podcast with me, James.
It's me, Claire. We are getting anxious. We're about to leave Ibiza. Can't believe it's been nearly 5 months that we've been here. It has flown by, hasn't it?
It has absolutely flown by. It's strange. Like, when you relocate somewhere, it feels very unnerving. We were just reflecting on, the first couple of weeks or so, you're like, oh, this feels strange. Have we made the right decision? Then you get into the groove and now we're like, oh, I can't believe we're going home.
I know, it's a whole time of laughs, isn't it? Oh, last Mercadona shop, which is the main supermarket here. It's the last gym workout. It's the last, So we're feeling it's exciting to go back to London.
It is.
I think we're going back at the right time. Now the weather's improving slightly as well. See, I've mentioned the weather again.
Oh, amazing.
Every time. Anyway, I'm particularly, James is very excited as well, but you've heard about my alcohol-free journey, listeners, so we are very excited about the guests that we have on today.
We are, and I think this is going to really resonate because a lot of you contact us and ask, I think particularly it is a lot of women about, how can they cut back their alcohol consumption? How can they go alcohol-free? So this is really gonna resonate with you. We've got an expert with us. We're thrilled that joining us all the way from Seattle, America, Casey Davidson, who's a life and sobriety coach and the host of the Hello Someday podcast. Hello, Casey.
Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to get into this, aren't we?
We are. Okay, so let's just start. I know Claire will be itching to jump into her own journey and compare notes, but generally, why do women come to you to get sober? Is it and of course, there are lots of individual reasons, but do you see a pattern, particularly at midlife, when we know that hormone changes can affect how we metabolize alcohol and all the rest of it? Is it just a sense of like, this is making me feel not so great, it's holding me back a bit, let's see who I am without it? What's going on for women when they come to you?
Yeah, like you said, I think it varies quite a bit across the board. I think a lot of the younger generations, like Gen Z, they have so much more information about alcohol and what it does to anxiety and depression and your health. And they definitely are sober curious to the point where, as you were saying, could I feel better without this? Is this necessary in my life? The women I work with, I typically work with really high achieving working moms. That's who I work with. Most of them are sort of around the ages of 40 to 60. And they grew up when I grew up, when alcohol was sort of held up as a privilege of adulthood and the way to connect. And, who you are can be, what you drink can be used as a metaphor for who you are. Like a sophisticated woman drinks, cosmopolitans like Sex and the City, and a woman who, drinks red wine is X. And so the women I work with have grown up drinking. And, drank in college, drank in their 20s, their 30s, and by the time they're in their 40s, they have found it really hard to quote unquote moderate their drinking. They've made all the rules of I'm only going to have 2 glasses. I'm only going to drink on the weekends. I'm only going to drink when I'm out. I'm only going to drink when I'm home. You name it, they've tried it. And so the problem is that drinking is addictive. Alcohol is addictive. No one talks about that at all, right? When you drink, you will want to drink more. You're constantly in this withdrawal cycle where you're irritable, you're craving alcohol. You decide, okay, fine. I said I'd take a break. I'll do it again. You drink again. Your brain lights up. You wake up at 3 a.m. with anxiety. It's a really hard way to live. And most women never talk about it. They just don't. So I work with women where everything looks fantastic on the inside, on the outside. And yet on the inside, they are anxious and stressed. They're constantly thinking about drinking or not drinking. They're worried about it. They're overcompensating in terms of like nothing to see here. Everything's fine. And we take a 100-day break from drinking, but do all the work during that time on everything that comes up when you give up alcohol, your relationships, your boundaries, how you relax, what is a trigger for you, so that by the time they get to 100 days, they feel so much better, they want to keep going.
It's wow. I mean, yes, I've said to you before we jumped on this call, before we started recording, I'm 21 months alcohol free now, and everything that you shared there definitely resonates. And the women that I work with at Midlife, very similar stuff comes up. One of the things that when you just said in those 100 days, we work on stuff. One of the things that surprises so many people, and it surprised me, I don't know anyone it hasn't surprised, is the shit that does come up, that you are masking that you are masking with that alcohol. And sometimes that's what drives you to go and have the other drink, because it's so uncomfortable to sit with that stuff. Do you find do you find the same thing, Casey, that comes up with women?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I want to say 21 months. That is incredible and amazing. Congratulations. Like, I always say, like, yeah, it changes the trajectory of your life. It really does. It up levels everything. And when you stop drinking, you were talking about all the shit that comes up, and it does. It does. But it's also just this tender transformational time. I mean, it's just your whole world opens up in all the good ways and some of the ways where you're like, oh, damn, this is a problem. But you don't get those moments very often in life where you are just like looking around at your whole world and being like, oh my God, I'm feeling childlike joy again. And when was the last time I felt this? Or I'm terrified to do this, So what I would say is everyone has a reason that drinking works for them in the first place. If you drink more than you want to, if you try to cut back and you struggle with it. So full disclosure, I was, a director at a Fortune 500 company, married, 2 kids, and I was drinking a bottle of wine a night, sometimes more, 7 nights a week. That was just me. And but nobody knew that. Nobody said anything to me about it other than I was a red wine girl. That was my shtick, right? And, I'd have 2 glasses when I was out with friends, and then I'd come home and open another bottle and wake up at 3 a.m. with anxiety and wake up in the morning being like, what is wrong with you? Pull your life together, Casey. And then put on my clothes, take my kids to daycare. I was the straight A girl. What I tell most women to think about is the underlying issue you need to deal with is, what do you not want to think about when you're drinking? What does drinking do for you? And so for me, it was, I didn't love my job. I was in this super high pressured work environment, had been in 20 years, and it was not a fit for who I wanted to be or what I cared about. But the pressure of being the primary breadwinner and supporting the mortgage and the kids, I felt really trapped. And so I drank and I turned off my mind. And otherwise, my life was great. I had a fantastic life. For other women, it's an unhappy marriage, maybe. It's raising kids that is so much harder than most people talk about ever. They have social anxiety, they have ADHD, they have trauma in their background, all the things that we do to hold ourselves together. And so in the beginning, I'm always like, don't think about any of that. You just need to be incredibly proud of yourself that you've gotten a week, 2 weeks, 30 days alcohol free. Treat yourself with extreme self-care, all the sober treats, really take care of yourself for the first time. Treat it as an experiment. The further away you get from that, the more clarity you have over. I mean, it just comes up, right? Oh my God, this thing happens. I want to drink. Oh my God, this thing's upsetting me. I want to drink. And those are all the things I say you get to deal with, because what's the alternative? Like knocking yourself unconscious and burying your head for another 20 years, or like doing the work so you can move on with your life.
Oh, that's, yeah. I mean, that hits that. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? I know James is leaving me to ask you questions. So I'm like, yeah, you get to the point where you're aware. So for me, I'm just speaking from my experience here, you get to the point where you're like, I am getting to a place where I know I'm running and hiding from something, and I don't like who I am when I drink. I don't like how it makes me feel anymore. I don't like who I am around James. I don't like the pain that it brings up. Like after I've had a drink, like the next day, the anxiety and the depression and just the hating on myself. And I had this anxiety that I hadn't had before. And I think that was going into perimenopause too. And it got to the point where I was like, I can do the work now. I can pull the Band-Aid, the plaster off now, and start looking at the shit that's driving that behavior, because you're so right. It was like, it was an opportunity. I finally saw it as an opportunity to see where the dark places were, where the painful places were for real. And I knew I had to do it because I just knew there was just this point of knowing. So all of that really resonates with me, and it takes courage, right? It takes so much courage.
It really does. It's so brave, and it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard to get away from this addictive substance that is held up as the end all be all and is pushed on you constantly, not just by marketing and in stores, but by your friends and your parents. And I mean, you go to a restaurant, the first thing they ask you is, what do you want to drink? And hand you the beer and wine menu. And so it's scary to navigate the world without it. But what I love that you said is the emotions and the feelings. It doesn't matter how much you drink. You could drink a lot less than me. You could drink a lot more than me. What you described, the hating on yourself, the anxiety, the just feeling terrible and yet wanting to drink still, like it takes up so much of your time and energy. And most women don't talk about the negative aspects of drinking. I mean, we joke about hangovers or like, oh, that was an epic night, which for me, I was blackout drinker. I don't remember many of the epic nights, but we don't talk about like, oh my God, I'm so anxious. I said I wouldn't do it again, and I did. This feels awful,
Casey, I wanted to ask you, you work with women, but do you might not know the answer to this, so if you don't, that's fine. But do you observe like at midlife that there is a gender difference in the way men and women drink, or their relationship with alcohol, perhaps?
Yeah, there is. And I work with women because I think that women have unique triggers and pressures of society and the way they interact with each other, and their role as parents, as mothers, seems to be different, and what society expects for them. So that's why I work with women. Also, it mirrors my experience. But men, what was interesting was the biggest surge in binge drinking meaning over X amount of drinks in a certain time period, is among midlife women with the highest socioeconomic status, the highest profile careers. It is seen as sort of the modern woman's steroid and the mommy's little helper at the exact same time, right? You are stressed. Let's have a drink. You're boss said, the latest of the thousandth microaggression against you as a working mom. Let's have a drink. Your partner's being a jerk or not holding his weight. Just have a drink. It's how we decompress. It's how we connect with others. You get together with your girlfriends, you complain, or it's your one night out and you drink. The problem is that we need real solutions. Now, I'm not saying that men don't have their own issues. They absolutely do. But the alcohol industry for decades has been pushing alcohol on women as the solution to increase their share of wallet, to increase their customer base. And so, the bottles of wine that are, literally titled Mommy's Time Out and are being sold have impact, right? It matters. I think men drink for a lot of the same reasons, stress, it's addictive, bonding. They don't necessarily, like if you study the way men and women interact, they don't necessarily talk to their friends the way women do. But it's like, alcohol, I think for women, it's like a pacifier we give ourselves, like you're genuinely upset. Things are genuinely not okay. You're sitting there going, this is all too much. And everybody's just handing us a glass and being like, here, shut up to some extent.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because this kind of maps into some of the things that I talk about sometimes, where women have been told that we can have it all of it. And this has been very, very good. Like the feminist movement is kind of splintered now into lots of different facets, some of them not particularly helpful or, for society. But it's that whole women can have it all. We can be the mother. We can be the socialite. We can work our way up the career ladder. We can literally do everything. And we're buckling under this pressure of I can have and should. It's almost like you're letting the female side down if you're not juggling all the balls and making it all work. So it's almost like that shame when you go into, I literally can't do all this. I'm not making it work. But my mate down the road, she looks like she has got it all figured out. How she got it all figured out? I haven't got it figured out. I'm going to drink.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've found, from doing this work for 6 years, I stopped drinking. I just hit 10 years last month.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you. So many more women are struggling with this than you know. If you are in a group of friends, say 10 friends who you all drink together often, probably 4 of them are struggling with alcohol and not talking about it. And, I get emails all the time. People write into my podcast, like, this is a huge issue that nobody wants to discuss because nobody wants to be labeled as quote unquote having a problem with alcohol. It's still shameful. So we go to the I'm just sober curious, I'm going to be healthy, which I love. Dry January, at least here in the US, like 35% of Americans of drinking age participated. That is huge. The issue is that, like, I love Dry January and I love the sober curious movement because it stops people from getting weird when you say you're taking a break from drinking. Now it's much more like, oh, okay, I get that, as opposed to like, why did you stop? What's wrong? But for a lot of women in midlife, they're not just curious. They need real support. They need real tools. They need a real community of women who can be honest about how difficult this is. Like, if you're sober curious, or even my husband's a normal drinker, he still drinks. When I hit day 12, he did not know that was the longest time I'd gone without alcohol in 2 years. My girlfriends in my groups, they knew. They were like, you deserve a freaking parade. You are amazing,
Love that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you still drink, but way less than.
Yeah, I mean, Claire not drinking at all has moderated me. Not I would say not that we were big drinkers, but I'll go down to the pub and you come with me and have a drink, so I go less often now. And obviously we don't drink at home either because when we get back, Claire's not drinking. I was going to ask something. We've covered a lot here about, I guess, the internal pressures we feel to drink, right? We've talked about, I'm stressed, I'm hiding from something, all that stuff. And that is tough to deal with. But I think something that we're certainly asked all the time is, in people's heads, it's harder. How do you deal with those external pressures, particularly like the social situations, right? Where everyone's like, oh, have a drink. And you're like, I'm not. Oh, what's up with you? Are you pregnant?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how can people deal? Because I think that's where people get the biggest block is, okay, yeah, I know I can not have a drink at home if I want to, but when I'm out and everyone else is drinking, I feel left out. So then that internal drive is coming in, but everyone around me is like, have a drink, have a drink, have a drink. What can
Yeah.
people
I
do
mean,
about
honestly, I tell everyone I work with, all the women I work with, like, tell everyone you know you're doing a 100-day no alcohol health challenge. Don't diet, just tell them that. And the Sober Curious movement has started making this much easier. The news about, like, okay, alcohol causes 7 kinds of cancer, alcohol worsens your depression and anxiety, alcohol, even one drink, lowers your sleep quality by 24%. So you sit there and you're like, there are all these reasons why not drinking is healthy. You can say, I'm taking a 100-day break from alcohol for a health challenge. I want to see if I have more energy. I want to see if I sleep better. I want to see if I'm more productive and happier. And leave it at that. It's hard to argue with an actual goal, not I'm trying to drink less, I'm taking a break without an end date. And the responses you'll get typically range from shrug, okay, good for you. Some people will start immediately talking about themselves and that one time they did a 10K or the one time they bought a Peloton or that they should do XYZ. I mean, if you frame it as a health challenge, everybody's like, oh my God, I need to get back to spinning, you know? And then the other thing, people who drink a lot, people who also might struggle with this will be like, oh my God, I could never do that. Isn't that hard? Why are you doing that? But when you're like, I just want to sleep better and have more energy. Also, as women get older, it's really a lot harder on your body. You talked about perimenopause and menopause. The symptoms of perimenopause are very similar to the symptoms of when alcohol withdrawal, and it compounds them like crazy. I mean, anxiety, poor sleep, not feeling well, feeling irritable, mood swings, all of that is the same as being in the drinking cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And one of the things that I was just thinking about then when you were talking is, what are some of the most common myths and beliefs that women have when they first come to you and they know that they want to and need to stop drinking?
Yeah. It's funny you said need to and want to, because I would say that there is not a single woman who starts my program who actually wants to stop drinking.
Right.
They want to feel better. They want to stop feeling awful. They want to stop making promises to themselves and failing. They don't actually want to stop drinking. The goal from every woman I know, and I'm saying this as it was my goal too, is to drink like a quote unquote normal person, right? To have 2 drinks a couple times a week or once a week on a date night and not think about it all the time. So one of the biggest myths, I think, is that women think that if they just learn enough about alcohol, if they just listen to enough podcasts, if they just read things or write themselves crappy letters about how much hangovers suck, that then they will not want to drink, and then ... it will be easy. And so the challenge is you have to stop while you still want to drink, and you have to trust all the people who've gone before you that it is worth it and it is better, because alcohol hits your brain and your nervous system and your priorities in ways you don't even realize, and you have to get away from it. So I think that one of the women who come to me, they have so many fears about alcohol-free life. They feel like they'll be bored, they'll be boring, they'll be judged, they won't be able to de-stress, they won't be able to hang out with their friends. Oh my God, sober sex is terrifying for them. They're like, dude, how am I going to get in the mood? This is awkward. Sober sex, by the way, is amazing, in case you're wondering. So all of these things are going through their mind, and it's all compounded with everything else. So we take a very clear line that this is 100 days to start. It is an experiment. get excited about it, treat it as a period of discovery and self-care and creativity. And like, what 3 months of your life looks like drinking, right? The highs and the lows. You know what March, April, May looks like if you're drinking. You've done it for a decade. What could your life look like if you weren't drinking? What would you do with that time and that energy and the space in your life once you get away from it? And don't you deserve to find out?
Mm.
Oh, I love that.
I love that. I was going to ask, we've heard a lot in recent years about grey drinking, which my understanding is that's where you moderate. And now, obviously, there'll be people that go 100 days or longer, and then they're like, I feel fantastic. I'm never going back. Get it? But there must be other people as well that kind of finish that time and go, that was great, but I want to be able to drink normally. How successful is it to try and go back and moderate? And could you, maybe just talk around that whole grey drinking thing?
Is grey drinking actually how James has just described it? Because I don't even know.
No, well, I mean, it's kind of sort of. So gray area drinking is defined as the space between having a severe dependence on alcohol or alcohol, problematic versus being able to truly take it or leave it. And very, very few people who drink on a regular basis can really take it or leave it. So basically, there is this huge universe of human beings in the middle. And we used to, one of the things that I'm not a member of a 12-step program. I did try it, Alcoholics Anonymous. It was not for me. But one of the things I think the alcohol industry truly loves is the idea of this quote unquote alcoholic, right? That poor, unfortunate person who's lost their privileges of drinking and cannot drink. And everyone else just needs to drink responsibly, right? They blame the word alcoholic. I know so many people in the program, they find it really, really empowering. And I think it puts all the blame on the person, not the substance. So the fact is, the substance of alcohol is addictive. And alcohol use disorder, which is the actual term, is a spectrum. So mild, moderate, severe. Almost everyone who drinks is on that spectrum. So gray area drinking, I would say, is the mild to moderate area of the alcohol use disorder. And the thing with gray area drinking, like I said, nobody actually wants to stop drinking. In our boozy society, it is pushed on you regardless of what anyone says. It's pushed on you all the time. There is still some judgment around it if you don't drink, whether it's said or not said. People are like, "Oh my God, that's lame." What do you do when you go out? And so what 100-day break does is, I'm a sober coach. My goal, like you, Claire, you're like, it's amazing. It's transformed my life. This is incredible. It's like you gave up this one liquid and you got this huge life out of it. And yet so many women want to go back. And I did that too, right? I stopped drinking for 4 months, had my baby girl after that. So I stopped for a year. And I was like, oh my God, I'm happier. I'm less stressed. My marriage is better. I'm more patient. Therefore, ... I can go back to drinking, thinking that it was situational, meaning like, oh, I drank too much because my job, my husband, my life, whatever, not it. The reason I'm happier and my marriage is better and I'm more calm is because I stopped drinking. And so regardless of if they go back to drinking or not, and I really work with women to not, but they say a period of time alcohol-free ruins you for drinking. And it does, because when you go back, every hangover, every fight, every mood, it's the alcohol, it. So then you compare and contrast and you're like, wow, I like life when I'm not, I like myself when I'm not drinking better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had that.
Sense.
I tried for 4 years, and I would do like 100 days, 100, and then, I would go, oh, exactly that. It's the situation. I've had enough space now. I can moderate. And actually, very, very quickly, you realize just how true it is that the substance itself is addictive. It's not something about you necessarily. It's not something about the situation or how stressed you are or something that needs healing. It's what you are drinking is utterly addictive, and it's going to come back at you almost immediately, because it lights up all those dopamine receptors. It reminds you of all of those amazing times, I'm saying in quote unquote, the amazing times that you had that drink on that sunset beach and all of that stuff. It all comes flooding back, and then you're right back into it.
Yeah, exactly. And so you said 4 years. And what's interesting is most women, because I've done my research on women, spend about 7 years worried about their drinking, trying to moderate, trying to control it, taking breaks before they finally are like, oh my God, my life's better without this. Or I can't feel this way anymore. I can't do this to myself anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a process, but that entire time you are learning, you are building sober muscles, you're gaining awareness. It's hard to stop drinking. You know, it's so funny. You say, oh, I stopped smoking. Everybody's going to be like, oh, good for you. That's bad for you. Good for you. Or if you pick up a cigarette, there's some judgment there. People are like, oh, it's still smoking, you know, unless you're drunk, then it's like, oh my God, I'm 25 again. But, you know, with drinking, the pressure is to drink. And I think that's, you know, nobody wants to question their drug of choice.
Yeah. And one of the things I would also say is what you touched on there. It really is different for everyone. It's a process. It's such an individual, unique process of stumbling, picking yourself up again. I personally don't know. Well, there are a few people actually that I do know where it was so bad for them. They got to one point in their life and they were carrying on drinking. They got to one point and then they were like, that's it. But I think a lot of us do realize it's not working for us. We have an attempt, you fall back into old habits, and we keep doing that. But we can't compare ourselves to other people's journey. But also each time we are learning something, and we're building new neural pathways in our brain.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is hard, but honestly, I think it is the biggest thing that you can do to transform your life and your relationships and your experience. And, you know, I always tell women, I'm like, the wine isn't going anywhere. Take 100-day break and do the work. Don't just white knuckle it. If you get to the end and you don't like your life better, you don't see the benefits, like it'll be there, right? No one's doing prohibition, but like give yourself the chance to see what it's like without it, especially if, as you said, the cycle of the way you feel and what you do, and I don't like myself and my relationship is worse, like there's some pain there, right? It's not, we tell ourselves it's all fun. It's not all fun.
No. And I would love to know, kind of as we, I suppose, come to the end here, one of the questions I would love to ask you is, what would you say to a woman listening to this podcast? And she might be feeling some of that shame we're talking about that we've all experienced. Everything looks rosy on the outside, but this has really touched a nerve on the inside. And I know that I need to do something about it, but I might not want to. What would you say to that gorgeous woman out there that's listening to this podcast? What advice would you give her?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that stop worrying about whether you are quote unquote bad enough or whether you have a quote unquote real problem with alcohol. And instead, give yourself the chance to have a longer period of time completely alcohol free. Not, I'm just drinking on weekends. I'm not drinking every 2 days or whatever it is. Like, give yourself that opportunity and get support. You need other women who are doing this with you, whether it's voices on a podcast or books, but like real women. You know, a lot of women think like, oh my God, women who stop drinking, they're drama, they have problems, they're whatever. Like, look at Claire. Like, the women who quit drinking are the coolest. They're smart. They've done some personal development work. They've got big lives. I always say like ex-drinkers have the best freaking stories I've ever heard in my life. I have never laughed harder than with women who have stopped drinking. So you are going to meet the coolest women on this path, and you don't have to do it alone.
I love that because it's so important. Community was such a massive part for me. I had an amazing community on Facebook, and I went through the whole 4 years and the whole process with them, and now I've reached this point. They're So supportive. I've made friends for life. In fact, we're meeting up when we get back home in April. And so they've become lifelong friends. And I agree, community and support is essential. It's not just a nice to have, it's so, so important.
Yeah.
Oh, Casey, thank you so much. If someone's listening to this and they know more about you, where can they find more about you, get in touch with you?
Absolutely. My website is Hello Someday. That's SOMEDAY coaching.com. And my podcast, wherever you're listening to this, is the Hello Someday podcast for sober, curious women.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes. Casey, thank you so, so much for that conversation.
Yeah, Casey, it's so lovely. And thank you for being so nice and kind to me as well. I love you.
It's true.
Thank you so much for coming on. We've loved this conversation. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors. Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset Audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.